This is one key thing you need to focus on if you want to build wealth and achieve financial independence. Hello and welcome. This is Dr. Obed, and here we'll talk about personal finance and wealth building. You see, in the journey of wealth building, you've been told to acquire assets, and that the more assets you acquire, the wealthier you become as against liabilities. And this is absolutely correct. You need to acquire more assets to become wealthy. But you see, all assets are not the same, and the type of assets you acquire determines the type of challenges you are going to face and how you are equipped to surmount them in your journey towards becoming wealthy. There are different types of assets: income producing assets and non-income producing assets. So the type you focus on and the type you have determines how fast you are going to build wealth and how quickly you can come out of financial struggles. Now, income producing assets are those assets that you have that bring in money on a regular basis to you. Examples like rental real estate, that is your properties that is on rent and people pay you monthly or yearly as the case may be. Another example is dividend stocks, where you are paid dividend sometimes monthly, sometimes quarterly, or even yearly. But you have this asset, and the asset is bringing you money while still preserving the value of that asset. So you can still sell or liquidate that asset and have your full money. However, this asset is bringing you money on a regular basis. Now, non-income producing assets are those assets that they preserve the value of your assets. However, they don't bring you money on a regular basis. They can even increase the value of the asset over time. But before you can have your money or even have a little money from that asset, you will need to actually liquidate that asset. We are talking about things like land that is not in use. That land is preserving its value and even growing, but you are not making any money on a regular from that land. Or even your own house that you're living in, if it's owned by you, even if it's not taking away money from your pocket as you are not paying rent, and the value of that house is probably increasing over time, but the house is not giving you money on a regular, so it's not an income producing asset. Some other forms of investments like non-dividend paying stocks, these are stocks that do not pay dividends, however they grow in value over time. So this classification helps you to know the type of assets that you are dealing with. Now, as someone who is building wealth in the initial stages, you need to focus on income over non-income producing assets or over accumulated cash. This is very key because income producing assets will always bring in income, and you need income to sustain your lifestyle and even your living expenses. Whether you have a source of income that is outside your investments or not, you need income coming in from different sources so that if anything happens to your primary source of income, all your other income sources can sustain you without having to liquidate your assets. Now, what happens if you do not have enough income producing assets? Even if you have a lot of assets, but most of them are non-income producing, what happens is that you will keep liquidating those assets when you have need for money, whether it's urgently or for an emergency. You will go ahead and liquidate those assets because you can be asset rich and cash poor. That means you don't have money, but you will have a lot of assets. This is how most persons who invested in lands and real estates that are not income producing, this is how they operate. You end up liquidating those assets in order to sort out your immediate basic needs. And when you keep liquidating those assets, you get to the point that you can exhaust them. That way, you are no longer even asset rich. But if you have income producing assets, they will keep sustaining you. You find a way to live within the means of the income coming in. That way, you can keep growing your assets without having to liquidate them. So for someone who is just starting in your wealth building journey, focus on income over cash. Now, if you have cash accumulated somewhere and you are spending it and spending it without replenishing it through an income source, eventually that cash can finish. No matter how much that cash is, if it is not being replenished through a consistent income stream, it can finish. And once it finishes, you are back to square zero. But if you find a way to engage that cash in a financial vehicle that brings in money while keeping the value of that cash, then it's a win-win because your asset is there, preserving its value and sometimes even increasing in value over time. However, you are still getting income regularly with which you can fund your lifestyle and living expenses. This thing about your living expenses is very important. Do not put yourself in the situation where you have a lot of assets but you don't have money to even feed or money to even sort out medical emergencies like in old age. And the type of assets you have will determine how much money you can have at your disposal to spend. So you can even get to the point of financial independence where the amount of money coming in from your passive income sources is enough to sustain your living expenses and your lifestyle. That is financial independence, where money is coming from your passive income sources enough to sustain you. This way, you don't need to put your assets at risk. The asset is there, even growing in value. However, it is paying you money that will take care of all your expenses, even if you are no longer working. That is one thing to focus on if you want to build wealth and achieve financial independence. Income over non-income assets, income over accumulated cash. Focus on income producing assets over non-income producing assets. And if you do this, you are going to make your wealth building journey a more seamless one. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel. Look out for other amazing videos. Join me in this journey of personal finance and wealth building. See you in this next video.